I lost hope because I didn't have a set path for healing for many, many years. And so there was anger, there was frustration, there were feelings of loneliness and isolation, like nobody can relate to me, nobody knows what I'm going through. And I'm very fortunate, like just being the person I am, I didn't deal with bullying. And if people tried to pick on me, I was like, whatever, I brushed it off, and that was kind of the end of it. But every day, it was a daily ask, like, hey, are you okay? Like, dude, are you all right? And it just drove me insane knowing that, oh man, there is something wrong with me and people are noticing. Like, that's not a fun place to be in.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us on another amazing episode of Bioenergetics Beat. I'm Heather Gray, a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner and bioenergetic practitioner. And this episode today is brought to you by Nikki, Unleash the Wellness Within. It's a non-invasive, easily affordable, and highly effective approach to wellness. It's a wearable device that puts frequency better based life in your hands and on your wrist. You're going to want to make sure to stick to the very end because we always have an incredible giveaway. So generous, but you're not going to want to miss one thing out of this young man's mouth because pandas, that's a topic that we've not covered on this show yet. And it is one that is highly, highly, highly correlated with a lot of folks with Lyme disease, autoimmune, brain inflammation. Like it has a tendency to be another one of those mystery monsters that, a lot of people shouldn't have to suffer from as long as they do. So I'm super excited to talk to this gentleman here. What is the topic today? Oh, it's called Life Unmedicated, Healing from Childhood Autoimmune Disease Naturally. Let's welcome Ethan Pompeo to the show.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I love that introduction, and you're absolutely right. Like, it's something that is just misdiagnosed and mistreated because it's not really talked about, and very few people are considered experts in the field. So I'm happy to do some advocacy and awareness here on the show today.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just such a weird acronym too. Like I remember when I was starting to dive in deeper and I'm like, what does pans and pandas? Like, are we just making stuff up now? Like, come on, people. Like, so I even as a practitioner, like wasn't taking it seriously just because of
Mm.
the name just sounded really weird and funny to me. Like, I don't know. But tell us before we get like into that nuts and bolts a little later, tell us a little bit more about your story, kind of why you're talking about this, what brought you here, all that fun stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So, pandas, you're right. Pandas is not like the cute, cuddly, bamboo munching bear that we all know and love, right? It's actually quite understudied and underknown. Experts actually estimate that 1 in 200 kids now have pandas or pans. And what it is acronym, kind of raises eyebrows when I say it, but it's Pediatric Autoimmune Neurological Disorders Associated with Strep. And essentially, what that means is a strep throat infection or other infection, like you mentioned, Lyme, or even a parasitic infection, mold, toxin exposure, causes an unusual autoimmune response in the body, namely excess generation of antibody cells. Antibodies are one of the few compounds that can cross the blood-brain barrier, meaning they can get into parts of the body where they're not supposed to be causing inflammation and other issues. So essentially, I went from a quote unquote normal, healthy kid at the age of 13 to debilitated by all these neurological symptoms from the encephalitis and the brain inflammation I was experiencing as a result of this reaction in my body. The symptoms I experienced were mainly motor tics, so loss of motor function, uncontrollable tics and spasms, obsessive compulsive disorder,
Well,
severe
hold on, hold on,
anxiety.
hold on. Before you go further in that, don't pass that. Don't pass go. Do not collect $200. Tell us a little bit more about what do you mean by ticks? Because right, we
Sure.
have a huge following with people with Lyme disease, so it's a different tick. So can you tell us a little bit about what you're talking about?
Got you. Yes. So again, not the animal version, right? A tick is it is a response usually to stimuli, whether it's anxiety or external stimuli. For me, it was mainly related to people in the room around me, coughing, sniffing, clearing their throats, these audible noises that drove a very weird reaction in my body. My brain's response to these kind of distractions and these noises and triggers, as we call them, was to, well, there's a number of different ways that my body expressed this, but number one was I had to like pick my pencil up and put it down and pick it up and put it down and pick it up and put it down over and over again until it felt just right. And if it didn't feel right, I had to continue doing it. And if someone coughed or sniffed while I was in the middle of this, it made it worse and my anxiety spiked and I'd have to continue doing this until I inevitably like broke the pencil. Or if I was using my phone and had this tick, I'd scroll and have to keep going back until I got so frustrated I'd hurl the phone across the room. The ticks evolved after a while. So my first tick was a skip step. Actually, I couldn't walk normally anymore, and this was the first one. It just I went to bed, I was fine. The next morning, I woke up and I had to do this like skip step where I hopped on my right foot twice and then continued walking. And we didn't think much of it at first, but as time went on, I started with the pencil thing, and then I had to it was the light switch I had to turn on and off until it felt just right. Then there was one where I would twitch my head or audible verbal tics like blinking. Yeah, I mentioned twitching my head. I had one that thank God is gone now, but I used to actually have to hit myself in the head at one point, which was very disruptive and even painful. Uh, you may have seen kids or even adults doing this where you have this blinking tick or the head twitch, and people kind of disguise it sometimes, but if you notice people doing this, chances are it could be related to some kind of infection or inflammation issue.
Huh. Yeah, no, fascinating. Thank you for diving in deeper into that. I was like, nope, I know there's a lot of beautiful information. And like I said, just using the word tick, I was like, people are going to be thinking the other tick. And I was like, no, no, we need to talk to us like we don't know what you're talking about. Because like I said, I actually really haven't had an expert talking about pandas on this show before. So a lot of this might be very new to somebody. And we can't skip over those minute details that we take for granted because we lived for
Mm.
them for so long. Because if somebody can hear something in your story, right, then hopefully then they can get the answers and look deeper. So thank you for humoring me with that. So continue on with your laundry list. And so it's funny, I actually I'm a stand-up comic too. And I talk about brain inflammation in my show. And I say that I want to start a revolution. I want to stop calling people crazy and instead say your brain inflammation is showing. Because once you slap somebody with that crazy stigma, it's really, really hard to wash off and for people to take you seriously. And I mean, even the Karens of the world, like we just need to show some empathy because, right, people don't act that way for no reason. There's something going on, and brain inflammation is causing way more behavioral issues than we're talking about, right?
I think you're right. And being that pandas is difficult to diagnose, I went about a decade before actually getting that diagnosis. When I was 13, I was misdiagnosed with Tourette's syndrome by the first neurologist we visited. And essentially, that was a label they slapped on me in order to like prescribe me drugs, right? And so began my long journey of trying to treat the symptoms with pharmaceuticals rather than actually target the cause of this illness, which is the unusual antibody response and the inflammation in the basal ganglia. So getting to that point where I got that correct diagnosis was the first step to healing. And that's why I am such an advocate for PANDAS awareness, because if the doctors or you don't know what you're dealing with, like, where do you begin?
No, absolutely. 110%. I know looking back at my symptoms when I had Lyme, I know damn well I had PANS as well, but that
Mm.
was even shoot 15, 20 years ago, so definitely weren't talking about it back then. But I just, I'm always wondering, it's like how different life would be if I would have gotten the proper diagnosis, back when I was younger. But, everything happens for a reason, divine timing. And I think everything has a blessing, hidden in it somehow. And so, what a blessing it is that look, listen to you now. You just told me before we got on here that you're finishing up a book and, doing all this and crazy, amazing awareness stuff. And I mean, how old are you? You look young. Like I just want to reach through to the camera and pinch your cheeks. Like,
You're too kind. I am 32 now, and I actually have a family of my own at this point. I have four daughters, believe it or
oh,
not.
wow. Well, I wouldn't have guessed you at 32. I would have guessed you at like 25. So my apologies.
Right on.
You do have a baby face. I'm like, this dude, he's so cute. But anywho, on a more serious note, so what are there's so many ways I can go with this. How does it look differently than Tourette's? Because when you were talking about those tics, that's what it sounded like to me. It was either OCD or Tourette's. So how can you kind of tease out the difference?
Yeah, it's tricky, and to be quite frank with you, I'm not an expert in Tourette's. My
Mm.
experience with that was, we don't know what causes it, we don't know how to cure it, and so there's very little information about that. And I'm of the belief that at this point, many of the people who are diagnosed with Tourette's are probably suffering from PANDAS, more or less. And the reason is because we actually have an understanding of how this works, right? We see the process, we
Mm.
see the infection and how that manipulates the body to respond in an odd way. And the tics and the anxiety and the obsessive compulsive disorder is the manifestation of what does your brain do with this inflammation?
Very well said. Very well said. So what are some of the other symptoms that you kind of dealt with when you were younger?
Well, there's a subset of symptoms that comes along with dealing with all this, especially as a young person, right? I didn't know what to do with it. I lost hope because I didn't have a set path for healing for many, many years. And so there was anger, there was frustration, there were feelings of loneliness and isolation, like nobody can relate to me, nobody knows what I'm going through. And I'm very fortunate, like just being the person I am, I didn't deal with bullying. And if people tried to pick on me, I was like, whatever, I brushed it off, and that was kind of the end of it. But every day, it was a daily ask, like, hey, are you okay? Like, dude, are you all right? And it just drove me insane knowing that, oh man, there is something wrong with me and people are noticing. Like, that's not a fun place to be in.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I got a little choked up there for a minute, remembering my own history and pattern. And yeah, the isolation, the loneliness, and then there's the medical gaslighting, right? Like, I mean, how many of us can relate to the medical gaslighting that goes on, well, especially when they give you some sort of just catch-all diagnosis and no real hope or real no solutions for moving forward, right?
And of
Uh,
course, at 13 years old, like that was my first real experience with a physician other than like my routine checkups. So, you know, uh, it's like if the doctor, like the expert doesn't know what they're dealing with and they're giving me these meds and they're making me feel worse, like who do I go to?
Right, right. Oh my gosh. So tell us a little bit about PANS. How is PANS different?
So PANS and PANDAS, it's essentially the same disorder. The the AS at the end of pandas is what separates it. So the associated with strep is related to pandas. Pandas is purely related to a streptococcal infection and that bacteria that wreaks havoc on your immune system. Pans can be related to any number of infectious diseases, toxins, mold exposure, Lyme disease, as you mentioned, that can actually cause like not a co-infection, but this other whole subset of symptoms that you can experience through your body, not treating that foreign pathogen in the right manner.
I know for me, it was extreme dizziness. Like every time I would stand
Mm.
up, I would get so freaking lightheaded. I felt like I was going to pass out on a regular basis, and so, and heart stuff that would just kind of go out of control. What are some of the symptoms that look maybe a little different in PANS and PANDAS? Are they kind of very similar?
Yeah, they can definitely vary. I mean, my tics were my main symptom, like that loss of motor function, the physical and verbal expression of this anxiety, and it's difficult to explain if you haven't experienced it because it makes no sense, right? Why would I pick up my pencil up and down over and over again, right? Why would I turn the faucet on and off over and over again? It's frustrating, it takes up time, it makes no sense. Other people experience more of the internal emotional symptoms associated with obsessive compulsive disorder, which I did, but not to this level. I've spoken with young people who think that their entire family is going to die if they eat with a fork. So they like cannot eat with a fork
Whoa.
because of this irrational fear they're experiencing where like something catastrophically horrible is going to happen if they do this or don't do that.
Holy cow. That's heavy.
You can imagine how disturbing that might be, right?
God. I just, wow. Yeah. On that note, No, we are going to stop here. We're going to take a break. When we come back, I want to dive deeper into the other side of the story. What were the things that you've learned that worked, that you were able to heal? Where are you at now in your life? And then, at the end, we'll do the shameless plug area of the show where you can tell us how people can find you. But don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. We're going to be right back.
Hey there, my name is Jer. I'm an art director and a graphic designer. My wife and I have two grown sons. Both are starting their young careers apprenticing in their fields of passion. And then there's our favorite son, our 7-year-old puppy, Andre. Andre has been the best addition to our family in the last decade. When the pandemic hit 3 years ago, my career was turned upside down. I started working as a contractor for a few clients and working from home. I haven't looked back since. My schedule with work is hectic and often stressful. I have two ways of dealing with my stress and anxiety. Number one is my dog Andre, and number two is my bioenergetic wearable, Nikki. When I need help with my work-life balance, I use my Nikki in stress and anxiety mode. And I have a puppy break. My Nikki touchscreen watch is pretty easy to use. It's cool that I can dial up individual frequency sets. When Andre is ready to go, I tap energy. I've been a longtime hockey coach and play in goal twice a week myself. I find the pain mode has reduced the inflammation in my legs in particular. The nighttime mode has been great. I charge my Nikki every other day at my desk. I've been wearing this cool tech for almost a year. On the latest update, I see there are some new frequency bundles. There's morning, afternoon, evening, on top of nighttime.
Nikki puts a personal wellness center in your hands and on your wrist. Be better, do better. We are Nikki.com.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully, you're on the edge of your seat like I am. Like I said, I still love diving deeper into these more mystery things because a lot of times they're not as complex as it may seem at the beginning once you start digging deeper and putting in foundational stuff. And, I've said it before that this world is not conducive to human health, period. Not from the fake lights to the fake food to the toxins in our air. Like the list goes on and on and on and on. And then now we have our bodies are showing us, hey, this is not conducive to human health. And when we get back to the basics, it's amazing how the body can turn around. And so I would love to hear a little bit about your story and on your journey and how you ended up finding the answers that you did and what's helped for you and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, certainly. And this is the part that I enjoy talking about, right? The pathway to healing, because it's true. From the day you're born, everything is trying to kill you effectively, right? And the day that you die, the day your immune system stops functioning, that's when you start to decay. So it's just the way that our world is designed. It is a beautiful circle of life, but when you're in the midst of that trying to survive, it can be not so fun. So dealing with pans and pandas is involves a two-pronged approach. Number one is to eliminate the source of infection. So, in the case of pandas, we'll talk about strep throat infection. You have to eliminate that strep bacteria. It's going to be an uphill battle if you're still trying to target strep bacteria and your immune system is battling this bacteria while you're trying to heal. The first step is to get rid of that infection. So, oftentimes, the protocol is long term antibiotics in order to make sure there's no trace of that bacteria in your system. And this is where, I say modern medicine has its purpose, right? It can be used to our advantage if used responsibly. There's other ways to fight the infection, but that's just the standard protocol if you see a pandas doctor. The second prong to this approach is to eliminate the inflammation or start battling the inflammation in your brain. So once the source of the infection is taken care of, now you can start to kind of repair that damage that's been done systemically in reducing your strep titers and reducing the inflammation in your brain. So what that looks like for me is an anti-inflammatory diet, taking anti-inflammatory supplements that are natural and healthy for us, like, I can talk about turmeric curcumin, quercetin, a powerful flavonoid, vitamin D, and CBD, which is my personal favorite. I call it nature's most powerful anti-inflammatory, and we can get into that later. But that's the two-pronged approach to battle this illness. And then generally speaking, lifestyle change is critically important. I break it down into, I call it the three S's: stop, start, and smile. So stop doing things that are harmful to your health. Stop doing things that are worsening your symptoms. Get away from stress triggers and anxiety. Start doing things that are beneficial to your health. Start eating an anti-inflammatory diet. Start exercising. Start telling yourself that healing is possible. And then finally, smile is the internal component, which is don't wallow in your sorrow. Like for so long, it was woe is me. Like I did not want to talk about pandas. I was ashamed of what I was dealing with. I was embarrassed. I was dealing with the shame of people looking at me and looking at me funny and say, "Hey, are you okay?" And like just letting go of all that and saying like, look, I have this issue and that's okay. Like I'm going to fight it, I'm going to battle it, and I'm going to try to have the best quality of life that I possibly can. Getting out of that mindset of woe is me and finding joy in the little things in life, the things you can do that actually bring you pleasure and happiness and fulfillment on a daily basis in spite of your symptoms are totally healing. And finally, like getting to the point where like me, you're okay coming on the show and like telling the world like what you're dealing with. It sounds crazy, but it took the weight off my shoulders and took the anxiety off of me and just allowed me to like express what I'm dealing with and also put me in a position to like assist other people along their healing journey, which I think is amazing.
No, absolutely. You know, gosh, there's so many, again, so many places I go with this. All those things are absolutely incredible. And I just want to remind folks that sometimes the mental emotional piece can be really, really hard to overcome when your
Mm.
brain is really, really inflamed. Like I remember I kept trying to meditate and think positive and do all these things, but when my brain was still so inflamed, it was really, really hard to get out of the spinning, depressive, anxiety type thoughts. And it wasn't until I added the diet and the supplements on that kind of gave my brain a little and it gave me a little wiggle room. And then the meditation and the mindfulness stuff was really able to set in. So I just don't want you to beat yourself up if you've been like, I've been trying to think positive for forever and I'm not getting anywhere. It is a multi-pronged approach. And a lot of times for me, I found that, helping the physical out really helped give me the bandwidth then to start working on the mental emotional, but you have to address them both. You can't just work on one or the other. You absolutely have to do both. Um, so give us like one more tip, before we leave, like a little nugget of, or like what's your idea of an anti-inflammatory diet? Walk us maybe a little bit through nutrition.
Sure. So I'm not a nutritionist, but I can certainly share what my nutritionist has had me do, which has helped. And of course, it will differ for everybody, right? Just generally speaking, like these are things that we all probably already know we should be doing, like eliminating sugar and processed foods, empty carbs. Like if you're an adult, like cut out the alcohol, get rid of all the things that are like clearly causing inflammation and giving your body like getting rid of that cutting edge your body has against these foreign pathogens. Like consume a diet that is beneficial to you. My nutritionist strongly suggested a high protein diet, which has been integral to my healing journey. One thing that really helped out dramatically is getting in an exercise and weightlifting routine. So by lifting weights and eating a high protein diet, I used to be skin and bones. Let's just put it that way. I was 135 pounds as a teenager, and I have gained over 50 pounds of lean muscle mass since starting my exercise routine. So I'm very strong now. But my functional medicine doctor has described the muscle mass that I've gained as a sink for eosinophils and those inflammatory compounds that are wreaking havoc on my brain. So not only does the muscle mass dilute the effect of these inflammatory compounds on my body, but they actually gives them some place to go other than my brain, which is huge for healing.
I had no idea. You taught me something new. And I always feel so great. Like I don't know why I ever get out of the habit of lifting weights and then I get back into it and then afterwards I'm like, "Oh my God, I feel amazing. Why do I ever quit?" And especially as we age, bone health. I mean, there's so many benefits to
Mm.
weightlifting. Like everybody should be weightlifting. And ladies, don't worry about getting bulky. Like that doesn't work that way. That's not how we're built. We build muscle differently, but you still should be moving heavy stuff around. Like absolutely everybody. Um, I absolutely I love that. Yeah, cutting out the sugar. I met with a woman one time. I wanted to work with kids so bad when had my own practice, but unfortunately, sometimes it can be really hard to get one person to do a protocol, let alone the family. Because you got to get several people involved, especially when it's children. And this woman came to me with her son, sounded just like you, and I knew what was going on, and that was the first step. I'm like, well, you're gonna have to cut out these foods, and she's like, you mean I'm gonna have to cook for him? I mean, those were the words out of her mouth. And she's like, well, I don't think that's possible. He's 15 and he eats pizza out with his friends and he does this and he's that. I'm like, well, I'm not going to give you supplement recommendations. I'm not going to give you these other recommendations because if you're still going to continue to feed him crap food that inflames his brain, right? It's not going to, you're not
Mm.
going to get him any better. So don't pass go, don't collect $200. Like nutrition is foundation, right?
I like to think of the food we eat as our primary medicine, really. And I appreciate what you had said then and earlier about, don't beat yourself up because there's a reason that the smile is the last of the three S's that I teach it because if it's really hard to smile when you're just suffering so much. So doing those first things like getting rid of the toxins, getting rid of the bad behavior and replacing it with good habits throughout your day is going to be the key to feeling a little bit better in order to be able to smile and feel better about yourself and your situation and begin that healing process.
Absolutely. That's one thing I love about there's so many things I love about the Nikki so much is I love using the inflammation frequency. I love using the detox frequency and then even the stress and the mental emotional. There's been days where, just life and I'm not in the best mood and I'm out around people and I've put it on emotions and oh, I'm all of a sudden pleasant again. Like it's amazing how that works. So, biohacking tools are amazing, but they're just that. They're also kind of that last end step. They're tools that are supposed to help, but getting that foundation lifestyle changes are absolutely crucial. So thank you for bringing that up. So shameless plug time. So you told me you got a book coming up, but where can people find out more information about you, your story, the book?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a blog on my website. It's greenvalleynutrition.com. And you can go on there. There's also a link if you're interested in learning more about the book. I'm really hoping to publish that this summer. So I do have a sign up so that you can put your email in there. We'll ping you when the book comes out so you can be apprised to that. But it really dives deeper into my healing journey and all of the things that I've done comprehensively, where I've come from, what I've done, and where I am now. And just with the idea of not only giving you valuable information, but giving hope to the patient and the parents who are battling this, because it can be, again, very lonely, isolating if you feel like you're the only one dealing with this. So my hope is that the book brings people hope and encouragement along their journey, as well as kind of pointing them in the right direction. So again, that'll be coming out this summer, but in the meantime, I do write a lot about how to battle inflammation, and I do have some tools that I think are really important. With these supplements, you have to be careful where you get them. As you know, tools like the Nikki are great because they can give you some quantitative data to back up like how you're feeling on a daily basis.
It doesn't have any tracking capabilities at all. It's purely a menu that you get to pick the frequencies that you want generated into your body. So it puts it through red light.
Got it, got it.
Yep, yep.
Well, that's awesome too. Anything to give you an edge over what you're facing, right? And I think that's very important. The reason I use anti-inflammatory supplements is because it does just that, right? It's like in addition to all these changes you're making, if you can find something in your life that takes the edge off, like you had mentioned, let you take a deep breath, refocus. That is sometimes the push you need to get out of that mindset of being stuck and wallowing in your symptoms in order to back up and say, hey, what are the changes I should be making in my life, and how do I go about that?
Absolutely. So beautifully put. You are very well spoken. And this was great. You did a great job. This was awesome. Also, make sure to go to wearenikki.com/podcast, enter in BioBeats for 10% off. And because we love our customers so much, a way we show appreciation is to give away a Nikki device plus the wellness suite of frequencies. It's a $598 value. So you'll want to make sure to go to the show notes, check out where you can find how to find Ethan and also how to register for the giveaway. Good luck. Make sure to join us every week for Bioenergetics Beat and have a healthy day.
The very first day that I wore the device, I slept through the night, which is amazing.
It looks like a little watch, but it's actually a frequency device. It's bioenergetic, so it has this little frequency light situation that goes into your arm, and it pretty much makes an immediate difference.
So there's like a sleep mode. When I go mountain biking, I throw it on an energy booster. Once I'm done mountain biking, I actually switch it to the other mode they have is pain and relief.
When I'm in a stressful situation and I put it on, it helps me almost immediately. I immediately feel calmer, whether that's a frequency or me knowing that it's working or knowing that it's helping in addition to that.
One of my buddies was like, do not discount this. This is an amazing device. You've got to give it a chance.
It's got so many options. I'm just going to go over, it's like a menu that you can choose. It's so easy to use. You just click on what you like. For example, it's got travel, pain relief, energy boost, allergies.
I really, really love this device. In fact, I have two of them because when one is charging, I want to wear the other because I'm never without it.
It will never give you something when your body doesn't need and it is not natural. That's what I love about the device.
Put it on focus, maybe halfway through the day as I was losing focus. And within about 10 minutes of turning on, I feel like my brain is just like, I'm connected. Like, wow.
Trying all the frequencies and I love it. The one I'm using right now out on my walk is energy. It just energizes me. And I'm finding that I've got more stamina and more energy than I thought I would.
My Nikki helps me sleep better at night and helps me feel less stressed.
I really been enjoying it. So I've noticed my energy's been up. I've been sleeping better.
So the Nikki is one price, and then you pay for the frequency sets separately. So you can get the wellness one, which is awesome. I really do love the new Lime frequencies so much. It's incredible.
Nikki Wellness Technology. Delivering frequency enhanced health. We are Nikki.com. The views, information, and opinions expressed in this content are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of Free Medica. Free Medica Technologies, Inc. and its employees are not responsible, nor verifies accuracy any of the information contained in the following content. The primary purpose of this content is to educate and inform. This content does not constitute medical or other professional advice or services.